Anyway, joining us now, Fox News contributor Charlie Hurt, the co-host of The Five, Harold Ford Jr. Harold, I know on The Five, and maybe I'll play it in a little bit here, I know you guys have played the John Kerry flip-flop ad. There's been a lot of flipping and flopping and flailing, but that's not my biggest complaint. Can you explain why since the time she has been coronated here, she's not answering any questions? And don't you think her record, you're a fairly moderate Democrat. Do you not see a lot of radicalism here?
Well, good evening. Thanks for having me, man. I think a couple of things. If I were in President Trump's shoes this evening, I would have probably accepted a debate and be demanding that Martha and Brett take us right away as a duo, meaning him and Vice President Harris, because I think there are a lot of questions that she's going to have to answer. I don't say that critically, or I say it constructively. I think it's positive when politicians are able to be presented with new facts and circumstances and developments and maybe have or reach a different conclusion about something. But ultimately, when you do that in a political setting, voters are the ultimate arbiters because they are the ones that will decide whether or not you're being honest, authentic, or genuine in how you have changed. You raised a lot of things in that monologue, and I happen to agree with some of the premise of what you raised. But I would fault a little bit more, Sean, if I were you, President Trump, for not saying, let's do this right now. Here are my answers to these problems. Here are my answers to these challenges. And I've been more consistent. And I want to hear Vice President Harris share her views and why this transformation on some of these issues, why she has pursued these issues in the ways that she has. So until they debate, I think a lot of the questions you rightly raised will be ones that will persist. But when they debate, and I hope they do it soon and hope they do it often, we'll get a real sense as a nation where President Trump stands, and equally important, based on your monologue, how and why Vice President Harris has changed a bit or apparently has had some different thoughts about very, very important issues.
I actually completely agree with you. And however, the first debate was completely on Joe Biden and fake news CNN's terms. I think they should agree on the venue. They should agree on the moderators. They should agree on the rules, like the Commission on Presidential Debates has historically provided both sides. That didn't happen in the last debate. I would say that should be a criteria. Charlie, let's get your take on it. But my big takeaway is the media, I don't think, is going to ask these questions. I mean, if Harold is right and we need a debate and Donald Trump has to do their job, how does she get away with that? It's kind of like Joe hiding in his basement in 2020.
Oh, I think it's exactly like that. We have seen already how hard the media, the leftist media, is willing to work on behalf of Kamala Harris's campaign. They're going to do absolutely everything that the campaign needs, including sort of leaking out all of these stories about how she's changed her position on all these hot topics, whether it's fracking or her love of open borders or her wanting taxpayers to pay for sex change operations for prison inmates. She sort of snuck all these things out into the press, and the press, even though they are completely compliant and supporting her, and of course, run with these stories and try to burnish her image, for whatever reason, she's still afraid to actually sit down with anybody in the leftist press and have a basic interview where, as Harold points out, she could maybe explain how she decided to change all of her views on these important issues. But I think that even if they do figure out the details of a debate, if it's not done by Brett and Martha, and I think it should be, I think you're going to wind up, another one of these situations where Donald Trump walks in and it's just like the event that he went to yesterday. It's going to be him versus the world, and he's going to have to be his own, correction machine for the left-wing press that's going to try to keep it from being about the issues.
Harold, I'm scrolling her radical positions, and, when she co-sponsored the Medicare for All bill that would also include free health care education for illegal immigrants, she co-sponsored it, and it would eliminate private health care. when she sponsored the Green New Deal, she was proud of it, but now they're trying to back off the guaranteed job side of it. She said many times no fracking, no drilling. She has no restrictions on abortion. We know that, I would argue, she surrendered in the war on terror by not supporting Israel and their offensive efforts against Iran. The mandatory gun confiscation issue is real. She said it. We have it on tape. She supports a 70 to 80% tax rate. On immigration, she's been an unmitigated disaster. She supports defund, dismantle, no bail laws, and of course the bail fund in Minneapolis. These are extreme radical positions. Have you ever seen any president running for office that has held positions this far to the left?
Well, I think some of those positions are ones that I disagree with, and some are ones that I find some agreement with. But my larger point, I think, is the one that we're all three trying to make. I think we need to see the two of them with Brett and Martha and others in different formats to ask these questions. I would remind everybody that, there was the New York Times that really first started exploring, exposing some of the different kind of positions that Vice President Harris is taking on some of these things. And I'm one, Sean, who firmly believes that when presented with new ideas and facts, one should be able to change their minds. When you work for a big organization or you're the leader of an organization, you hope that the leaders in an organization can do those things. I don't say this flippantly or cavalierly or even politically, but even the President Trump's vice presidential nominee had things to say about President Trump a few years ago, and he changed. And look, and I believe that he changed. I think it's credible, and I think we have to give people space to do that.
But here's where we are. It's only since she became the presidential nominee that she went back on fracking and Medicare for all and eliminating health insurance and mandatory gun buyback. It's only been the last 2 weeks. That sounds to me, maybe I'm too cynical, like an election year conversion. We'll give it.
So, Sean, I think that's a question, but that's a question that she should be asked. And I think you're raising one of the right questions. When did you come to this conclusion? Was it before you got you knew you were going to be the nominee of the party? Had you been thinking about this over the last few years? And if you had been, why didn't you say it earlier? I think these are all legitimate and the right questions to ask.
I vote if Martha and Brett are busy. Harold, you and I can co-host the debate. I'm volunteering. I'm sure Kamala will agree to that.
Put Charlie with us.
You get
Put
the last
Charlie
word,
with
Charlie,
us.
real quick.
I'll hold the clock for you.
Yeah, well, she's got a lot of answering to do, no doubt about it. All right, thank you both. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.